Have boundaries, but don't ever withhold love, especially from your children. Boundaries are really important. You've got to know what's fair and what's not, what's allowed, what's not, what's in bounds and what's out of bounds. Where are your no-goes? We don't talk about that. We don't go that place. That's just not on the table for discussion. As an example for couples, is divorce something you'll throw at each other and use as a tool to force compliance? If someone's not doing what you want, the way you want, when you want, and so you say, well, you know what, maybe we should just get divorced. And you don't actually mean it. You might feel it in the moment, but in your heart, you really don't mean you want a divorce. You're just saying something to try and get your partner's attention. That's an example of a boundary that maybe is not okay to touch on. Maybe it's not okay to talk around. Maybe it's not a thing to be played with. Maybe for your relationship, that's a boundary the two of you establish and say, hey, look, things get difficult, things get tough, but I'm never going to drop the D word. The only time I would is prepare paperwork because you're about to get hit with a lawsuit. I'm about to just come at you full court press. So you need to have those boundaries, and you've got to make that clear, whether it's with your partner or whether it's with your kids. You've got to make it clear that you understand these are the boundaries. This is the clarity. Here's where we go. Here's where we don't go. These are the things that should be happening, right? These are the things we expect. Expectations are not always a bad thing. But there's got to be consequences if we cross those boundaries. There's got to be consequences for if we're rude, if we're disrespectful, if we're argumentative, if we're just being too crazy silly and the situation does not warrant that. But take all of that and throw it to the side, because no matter what you're doing, you're having those boundaries, you're having those standards. At the same time, you don't want to withhold love from your children. They can be in timeout and still know that you love them. They can be having to do chores to make amends. Today it's called restorative justice. But it's the idea that they could do something to earn back their good favor or their good graces with you. And they know they messed up, and they know that there's some pain there. But underneath it, they know that you love them and that you have got their back and you're going to be willing to listen and support. As an example, two sides of this thing about boundaries. We were out with Evie for dinner, and she's 4, and we were ordering, and sometimes it's easier just let her have some YouTube and she can just be focused on that because she eats a little faster than us or doesn't eat as much, and so she's out of the conversation. But we're there at the restaurant, and I ask her, what does she want to eat? And the waitress comes up and she orders the food. She says she wanted like chicken nuggets or whatever. And I said, excuse me, ma'am, can you please look at the waitress? And no reaction. So I put my hand over the screen and I blocked the eyes on me. Thank you, ma'am. Can you please tell the waitress what you would like? And then she said it. I said, make sure eye contact. And so Evie looked at her in the eyes, and then she made her order, and then she looked at me, and we're good. And then she went back to her screen, which I was okay with. So that's a way that we want to remind people of those boundaries. Now, I could have yelled at her. I could have ripped the phone out of her hand. I could have pushed her. There's all different ways I could have gotten her attention. But knowing that she's a visual learner, I just blocked the eye line of what she was looking at. And then what's going on? That got her attention for turn her ears back on and be more engaged with the family. Now, the other thing we do, and this is actually I learned from Autumn, is when we put Evie in timeout. She's got to go to timeout. When she was 1, it was a minute. And now that she's 4, almost 5, it's 4 minutes. And pretty soon it's going to be 5 minutes if she has to go. And it's like, you're in timeout, and then we don't talk to you, we don't look at you, and she's got to just kind of sit there and get back control of herself and whatever the situation. And then when we bring her out, it's like, okay, now why did you go to timeout? Were you doing a good job listening? Were you being helpful? Were you being dangerous? Were you being disrespectful? So we got to help her understand, why does she get put in timeout, and say, Mom and Dad still love you. We still think you're a great person. We need to make better choices going forward. Can you make better choices, Miss Evie? Can you help Mom and Dad to feel warm, big, and happy with your listening? Thank you, ma'am. High five. And I'm going to give you a hug because I love you and I think you're a great person. And I think we just all need to work on being a little bit better in our behavior sometimes. And it's really important for younger people, we separate the behavior from the identity or from the person. It's not, I am bad. It's, I did something that could be better. We don't even say you did something bad. You did something that could be better. You could do something at a higher standard. See, even in our language, Autumn and I have some boundaries about certain things that we won't say. Our kids don't lie. They tell stories. Because that way when something's going on, Mom and Dad, you're telling stories versus Mom and Dad, you're lying. and that changes the conversation. So have your boundaries. Absolutely. Have your go zones and your no-go zones. Have accountability. Have consequences. Those are all great things. But throughout all of it, never withhold love from your children. Always make sure they can feel that you love them and that you support them and you encourage them and you listen to them, so that they feel safe with you, and then they can feel safe with themselves. And then eventually they'll feel safe without you too. And that's the goal, isn't it? So if this resonated with you, please be sure to hit the subscribe button and the like down below. Turn on notifications so that you get the next one when it comes out. You guys make it an outstanding day, and I will see you when I see you. Bye.